Moin, ihr wunderbare Menschen des Interwebs. Ich begrüße euch ganz herzlich zurück zu meinem Let's Play von The Great Ace-Attorney Chronicles. Wir wollten uns einmal in diesem Part in Mr. Natsumes Raum umsehen und dort soll auch noch Herlock sein Unwesen treiben. Oh, kleine Miezekatze. Wow. Wow. Also wenn ich hier leben würde, das ist ja wie ein Kerker. Das Fenster ist zugemauert. Kein Licht, nichts. Oh, ich glaube, da würde ich durchdrehen. Da drin. Also. What? Just look at this place. And smell it. It's so musty in here. I suppose it's the mountains of old books that are responsible for that. I don't think I've ever seen so many books in all my life. No, me neither. It's so dark in here too. Is that the window over there? Well, it was the window, I think, yes, once upon a time. But for some reason, it's been closed up with bricks and mortar. So this is where Mr. Natsume lives. By the way, I haven't spotted Mr. Shums anywhere, have you? No, that's true, but according to what Mr. Gary Depp told us, the great detective should be around here somewhere investigating. Also werden wir ihn auch wieder irgendwo rumhängen sehen wahrscheinlich. Ich würde mir gerne einmal die Katze angucken hier. Oh my, what an adorable little cat. Perhaps he's looking after all the books while his master is away. I don't know about that. He disappeared into the pile of books as quick as a flash. It was a tricolor Miki, wasn't it? Do they even have that sort of cat here in Great Britain? Perhaps Mr. Natsume brought the little creature with him from Japan. That's made me feel homesick now. Already? We've only been in the country for 2 days. Gut, dann gucken wir mal, ob hier irgendwo... Okay, noch kann ich Herlock nirgendwo ausfindig machen. Aber das wird sicher noch passieren. The desk seems to be wedged into a crevice between the mountains of books on either side. I suppose Mr. Natsume would sit there and read while soaking up. Damn it. Ich hab's übersprungen. Tut mir leid. But surrounded on all sides by these towering old tombs, surely he dreamt of books every night as well. Yes, he must have done, mustn't he? Oh, what's this? It's a recipe from a second-hand bookshop. Your books. Oh yes, Mr. Natsume's name is on it, look. And the date of purchase, 2 days ago at 4:45 p.m. That's the day of the incident. It's just a short while before he was embroiled in the terrible attack. He must have been on his way back from buying some old books. Okay, the second-hand book recipe has been entered into court record. Gut. Aber wenn der jetzt hier zwischen seinen Büchern die ganze Zeit sitzt, liest und sich Sachen aufschreibt, wo schläft der Herr denn bitte? Oh look, it's a beckoning cat from home. It's a bit big and bulky, isn't it? Surely Mr. Natsume didn't bring that mannequin Neko all the way from Japan with him. I hardly think you're in a position to comment, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you forgetting the enormous Daruma doll that you brought in your luggage? Well, it can be dangerous traveling abroad. I wanted a lucky charm. Well, I imagine Mr. Natsume wanted the same, and this cat is sure to beckon good luck to him. It's not doing a very good job so far, isn't it? Is it? You mustn't say such things. I didn't say a word. You're in my eyes such a giveaway. This appears to be some sort of heater on the wall here. It looks very robust. I wonder what it's for. There's a slot for inserting coins here too. Ah, I believe that is a gas meter, Mr. Naruhodo. A gas meter? Yes, it seems there is piped gas in this district which consumers pay for by putting coins in the meter. So, if we were to put a coin in the slot, that would be enough gas to use the lights and the gas fire for the whole night. So if you're too poor to have a coin, you would have to spend the night in the dark and freezing cold. That's right, as would rich men who only carry crisp white notes. London is a scary place. Look at all those books stacked up there. They almost reach the ceiling. They are all works of English Literatur in Englisch. Ja, wir belassen es bei Literatur. And they all smell so musty. With this volume of books to hand, you would never be short of reading material, would you? Oh, what a dreamy idea. A bad dream, maybe, for me at least. Mind you, I don't imagine the book that's at the bottom of the pile now will ever be read again. Ah, so reading it is an experience that comes but once in a lifetime, just as the tea ceremony teaches us. I certainly didn't expect the conversation to turn down the path of tea ceremony philosophy. Ich glaube, das letzte Mal, dass ich das englische Wort Literatur aussprechen musste, war wirklich in der Schule. Ich glaube, sonst habe ich dieses Wort immer nur geschrieben. Ich würde mir eigentlich gerne die Tasche angucken, aber das darf ich leider nicht. Could she even call this a window? I think so. It was a window at one time after all. Also, all that remains is a frame around some bricks now. So, really, it's just a wall then, isn't it? But why would anyone deliberately brick it up like that? I'm afraid I have no idea. Perhaps Mr. Natsume painted the brick design in a fit of whimsy. That's alarmingly feasible. Anyway, whatever the reason, the lack of ventilation in here makes the place very oppressive. It does. I imagine being cooped up in a room like this would be extremely trying. Ach, da ist er ja jetzt, der gute Herr Herlock. Ah, look, Mr. Naruhodo. Ah, there he is. Where did he appear from? He seems to be engrossed in the pages of an old book. I hope he won't mind if we disturb him. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Oh, you too. Good day. Now, let me see. Where was it that we met? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, we were together on the SS Buria. Yes, of course, the Buria. And let me see what happened on that voyage. It was Kazuma Asogi. He died, tragically. But you were a great help to us. Ah, yes, but of course, the case of Mr. Asogi. It was the one with the snake, wasn't it? Well, you seem to remember something of it, at least. What an honor to be remembered vaguely by the great Herlock Sholmes. This is Mr... Oh, no, my dear madam, hold your tongue. I pride myself on my superior powers of recollection. Your names are safely recorded in my brain attic. Miss Naruhodo and Mr. Susato. Fast richtig. Try the other way around, Mr. Sholmes. I lose the first round. In truth, I had hoped to invite you both to my Baker Street suite the day we arrived in London, but some Scotland Yarders ambushed me at the railway station and whisked me away to a crime scene. It was an entirely trivial case, of course. I solved the matter in no more than 30 minutes. So they apprehended Saseki-san in that short an amount of time? I'm afraid the pursuance of a new case has dulled my recollection of my past involvements a little. A little? It is a mistake to think that one's brain attic has elastic walls and can distend to any extent. I do my best to forget useless facts, lest they should elbow out the useful ones. Yes, those are my own words of inimitable wisdom, you know, from an adventure entitled A Study in Scarlet. Please, there is no need to quote yourself. I don't always remember my pearls of wisdom, but fortunately my associate pens them beautifully. It means Iris, I suppose. Mr. Sholmes, we have some extremely important questions to ask you about the trivial case you just mentioned. Goodness, what an earnest expression. My dear madam, I should be only too pleased, and this murky room is an apt place to discuss the murky case. We know this to be the lodgings of a Japanese foreign student by the name of Sasaki Natsume. It seems that you assisted in his arrest, Mr. Sholmes, for the stabbing of a young woman outside here on Briar Road. Natsume? Yes, I believe it was a name rather along those lines. But Mr. Natsume denies it. Was it really justifiable to arrest him on so little? I'm sorry, Miss Susato, but I have not the slightest idea what you mean. I can't believe he was looking Susato-san squarely in the eye while feigning ignorance. I assure you, I'm not merely feigning ignorance. It would appear as if the pair of you are under some misapprehension. How? I assure you, I have no recollection of accusing your stupid comrade of the crime. But that doesn't make sense. The good detective of Scotland Yard made the following request of me, and I quote, verbatim, "We need you to ascertain the identity and whereabouts of a man seen fleeing the crime scene." A man seen fleeing? There were a number of books scattered on the pavement at the scene. From the book plates, I was quickly able to determine the bookshop from which they had been purchased. On speaking with the proprietor, I was immediately led to this address. Elementary, wouldn't you say? I believe there is a recipe around here somewhere from the establishment in question. So you don't think Mr. Natsume is the culprit then? That I could not tell you, but it was aggravating my faculties, hence why I returned here. However, this place is such a trove of fascinating books, I found myself quite lost in bibliophilia. Do not be deceived into believing that I am a man of leisure. No, no, no. Oh dear. Tell me, have you encountered the landlord of these lodgings? Yes, Mr. Garridab, a retired military man. It was the first time I've ever met a soldier from the great British institution that is the service. And it was the first time I've ever met a maid from the great British institution that is service. I didn't think it was that funny. I do apologize. As you may well be aware, many households in London employ a maid. Yes, I read as much in my Great Britain primer. And so conversely, whether or not a household employs a maid has come to betoken the social standing of those dwelling therein. Sorry? Put simply, my dear fellow, those who employ at least a single maid are considered middle class, those who do not are beneath that. In the upper echelons of society, of course, households employ enough staff to constitute a large family. Goodness, how extraordinary. As you can appreciate, for those on the precarious boundary between the middle and lower classes, being able to afford just one maid is of the first importance. I had no idea. And it is for precisely that reason that I find great stimulation in the situation upstairs, specifically in the retired army veteran, Mr. John Garridab. Affable as he is, the fellow is hiding something. Whether or not it imposes on the circumstances of this case, I am as yet unable to ascertain. I'm thoroughly lost on what he means to say. This room is thoroughly suffocating for the soul, my dear fellow. I assure you, any man whose lot is to dwell in a place such as this will stab somebody sooner or later. Mr. Natsume has stabbed no one. But sooner or later, as I said. I don't believe that's the issue here. About this dark little room, Mr. Sholmes. Why is there no longer a window? Do you have any idea? A window? Well, I mean, I can clearly see that there is a window of sorts. But it's been completely blocked with bricks. I see. The answer to the question is quite simple. Window tax. Window tax? What is that? Surely not a tax on windows. Precisely that. Oh my goodness. Until relatively recently, a tax was levied on households in this country by the number of their windows. Those of lesser means having inherited a sizable and costly family home perhaps rapidly closed windows up, while the rich opened windows here, there and everywhere in an effort to curry favor with those in power by furnishing them with large sums of tax money. How awful and unjust, forcing people to live in rooms devoid of light. Indeed, disease was rife as a result. Some 40 years ago or thereabouts, the window tax was abolished. But its legacy remains, as you can see, in squalid lodgings such as these, for example. I suppose Mr. Natsume's stipend for living here in London isn't very generous, perhaps. It would appear so. I've done a little digging and discovered that these lodgings were offered at an extraordinarily low price. Because the room is so awful, I should think. Apparently Mr. Natsume only moved in here about 1 week ago. Yes, that's correct. However, I don't believe the low rent is explained by the shabby nature of the accommodation. Still, that is of little relevance here, a matter not worthy of further attention. Are you sure? I'm curious now. Well, I believe I've told you all I can now. Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. Ah yes, Mr. Naruhodo, was it not your intention to become a practitioner of law? You remembered that, did you? Will you perhaps be offering your services in this very matter, I wonder? To the occupant of this room, Mr. Natsume, was it? I'm not sure. Not sure? On what grounds? Well, I actually defended someone in court here only yesterday. Really? Well then, I congratulate you, sir, on an ambition realized, and so promptly too. The thing is, it's really made me question things. Am I right to believe in my clients? To trust in their innocence? Yes, trust. Mr. Holmes, Mr. Natsume didn't do it, did he? My dear fellow, I haven't the first idea. Oh, but I thought that's why you were here. Didn't you come back to investigate? Yes, that was indeed my initial intention, but there are simply too many fascinating books here. I couldn't possibly ignore them. Oh, I see. Nevertheless, there are two facts that I can state quite unequivocally. Ich bin mir sehr sicher, dass ich das gerade falsch ausgesprochen habe. The man who fled the scene of the crime 2 days ago was the Japanese occupant of this room, and there are witnesses who swear to having seen the same man commit the crime. That is all I can say. Ah, and one more thing. Oh, what is it, Mr. Sholmes? Tell us. I cannot say with any certainty whether or not it is of relevance to this case, but I'm quite sure that the retired armyman who owns this property is hiding something. Mr. Garideb is... Mr. Sholmes said as much before actually, didn't he? Anyway, at present that is really all that plays on my mind in relation to this case. Mr. Naruhodo, as yet our investigations have uncovered nothing that could help establish Mr. Natsume's innocence. No, you're right. Perhaps it's time we probed a little deeper into Mr. Garideb's secret. Just remember, I cannot be sure whether the landlord's secret will prove to be of relevance or not. But I wish you every success, of course, Mr. Naruhodo. A busy man indeed. He's gone back to his books. To his book in the corner of the room. Okay. Ich muss auch ganz ehrlich sagen, ich finde das gar nicht mal so schlimm, dass es einige Wörter gibt, bei denen ich mir jetzt nicht sicher bin, wie sie nochmal ausgesprochen werden. Weil das für mich einfach nochmal ein Grund ist, das Ganze nachzuschlagen, um mein Englisch wieder ein wenig mehr auf Vordermann zu bringen, weil es einfach sehr, sehr viele Wörter gibt, die ich zwar oft schreibe und benutze, aber Englisch spreche ich eher selten. Gut, dann ist jetzt natürlich die Frage... Umsehen, hier kann ich wirklich nichts mehr weiter angucken. Die Tasche stört mich, ich würde so gerne diese Tasche angucken. Aber das geht leider nicht. Gut, ich schätze mal, aus Mr. Sholmes bekommen wir dann auch erstmal weiter nichts raus. Also ist unsere einzige Möglichkeit, wieder zu Mr. Garideb zurückzukehren. Oder wir können natürlich auch nochmal in das Gefängnis gucken und Mr. Natsume ein wenig über den Herrn ausfragen, um zu gucken, ob er was über ihn weiß. Wie auch immer, all das werden wir im nächsten Part erledigen. Ich bedanke mich wie immer ganz herzlich fürs Zusehen. Hoffe, ihr hattet Spaß. Und wenn ihr mögt, sehen wir uns sehr, sehr gerne im nächsten Part wieder. Bis dahin, ciao.